Non-Admitted and Reinsurance Reform Act, I think in its early iteration was dubbed the SMART Act.
Indeed.
And we like to kind of refer to it as not really so smart. But as in, even a broken watch can be right twice a day. So there is an element in that bill that we think is really important, and that's the way the tax collection process works. And we think that element is something that would be really important, and we would like to see some improvements made in the way the taxes are collected and filed for surplus lines. But unfortunately, the bill goes farther than necessary in establishing a single state regulator for multi-state surplus lines policies and for broker licensing. And it's that preemptive language in the current bill that could potentially impact state consumer protection authority and really goes far beyond the stated objectives related to the tax collection and the broker licensing. So, and we've worked with NASLO, and I think there's some elements in that bill that are very important, and we'd like to see those adopted. The reinsurance aspect of it, we've really encouraged Congress to hold off, because we have a reinsurance task force that has really been doing some great work in developing some comprehensive revisions to our U.S. regulatory framework for reinsurance, including changes in the collateral requirement from non-U.S. Reinsurers. You know, most reinsurance in this country is provided by non-U.S. companies, about 80% of it, and yet we require 100% collateral for the business they write in this country, and they have that has been a real source of contention with the non-U.S. reinsurance industry, and we think there is a better method. We don't have, they're a non-U.S. company. We don't have the ability, if they don't pay a claim, to go after them. So how do you protect consumers but address their really legitimate concerns? Because these are top-notch companies: Swiss Re, Hanover Re, Zurich. These companies, I think, have some real legitimate issues, and that is an area that our reinsurance task force, led by the commissioner from New Jersey, Steve Goldman, has really been working diligently on. They've had numerous meetings since this year, since our last NAIC meeting, and they do plan to bring a proposal to our September NAIC meeting, and feel that it's really even a more comprehensive approach than what's proposed in the reinsurance portion of the Non-Admitted and Reinsurance Reform Act. So there are several, I think, components that we look at as regulators in any of these bills that are being proposed. Number one, if there are some standards that are going to be set through federal law, we want those standards to be a floor and not a ceiling. If states want to go beyond them, there ought to be, if they want to set some standards, let that be the floor. And if states want to adopt additional protections, they should be able to. They should be narrowly defined to meet the specific and stated objectives, and that we think in the tax collection aspect of it is important, but issues over home state regulator, there's some definitional issues that I think we're still struggling with, and that it be a standard, that if standards are set, they be standard benchmarks and not enforcement benchmarks. So, but I think there's some real benefit to continuing that discussion. I think there's some objectives in terms of that bill that are very legitimate, and we look forward to continuing the discussion, and hopefully we'll be able to get some of those ideas passed.
And how about NARAB?
And the producer licensing. We have been supportive, of the producer licensing approach, as long as the body that is created is now, granted, this is not a bill that NAIC or the states introduced. This was introduced by the big I. But having said that, as long as if there's a national body that is going to be created, as long as it's controlled by state regulators, and I think the bill that in its current form has that, if its reach is very narrowly tailored to address only non-resident reciprocity, and that the regulatory control of the producer's conduct in any particular state remains with the state regulator. Those are the areas that our member commissioners are most concerned with. We think the reciprocity goals are laudable. We have that as one of the goals of NAIC. Absent any federal activity, we're going to continue to work on producer licensing modernization. We're going to continue to work on reciprocity. And we're going to also continue to work on uniformity. You know, we did a very intensive audit of every insurance department in the country last fall and compiled the information to see just exactly where are we with our producer licensing reciprocity and uniformity. In terms of appointments and terminations, 41 states already use the producer licensing process that's currently in place. They use that system. 9 don't require appointments, and so the only state that currently is not using the registry is Massachusetts, and that's the others. 41 do, 9 don't have it as one of their authorities. One of their requirements.